Welcome! Today we will be looking at some teaching techniques that can be used to teach the geography standards of Southern and Eastern Asia. These standards ask students to locate selected features in Southern and Eastern Asia. It also asks for them to explain some of the environmental issues, look at the location, the climate, the physical characteristics based on where people live, and to look at the different cultural characteristics of the people who live in Southern and Eastern Asia. There's a lot of elements and a lot of pieces to these standards, so please pause this video if you need to spend some more time examining these standards. Some teaching ideas for teaching this unit include map mnemonics, some hints on how to learn the map, having students create their own population map, a movie clip from FORREST GUMP, cause and effect research charts, religion research, and a religion quick game. We are going to take some time to look at each one of these elements in detail. Let's start with mnemonics. According to Merriam-Webster, a mnemonic is something, such as a word or song, that helps people remember something, such as a list of names or a rule. We often need to teach students how to use mnemonics just as a certain learning technique. This will help them as they go through school and life as they need to learn things. Let's look at some mnemonics that can be helpful with our map of Asia. If you find the country of India and notice that it sort of looks like it's pointing to the Indian Ocean. If students can link these things, India, Indian Ocean, this will help them. It's also an easy way to find the country of India on a world map. Another mnemonic is Japan. Japan looks a lot like a lowercase j, the northern island being the dot of that j. While we're here, the Sea of Japan is in the j. It may seem obvious that the Sea of Japan is next to Japan, but some of our students will completely miss that unless we point it out to them. Another mnemonic. The South China Sea is south of China. Once again, one that should be very obvious, but some of our students completely overlook. What's really fun is to have your students create some of the mnemonics themselves. Here's one that came from a student. The Gobi Desert is like the bubble guppies, which sounds completely ridiculous until they explain that one of the characters on the Bubble Guppies, a Nickelodeon TV show, is called Gobi. Well, bubbles always float to the top, therefore the Gobi Desert floated to the top of China. Once again, seems ridiculous, but the students will always remember those things that they create themselves. Another activity to have students complete is to create a population map. You can provide students with a physical map and a blank map. Have students examine the physical map and make judgments based on the different landforms and things that they see. Then have them use the blank map to create a population map. Students should be able to justify why they think certain areas will be more populated than others. Once you're finished with this, actually compare the maps they've created to a population map of the area. This will have students truly think about where people live and why they live there. It's a little different to just look at a map and say, wow, a lot of people live in this area, and where do I think that people will live? This will allow students to think maybe a little bit backwards and a little bit deeper about the concept of population. Another idea to incorporate into the classroom is a FORREST GUMP movie clip. Please know, this video is not appropriate just to watch from beginning to end with 7th graders. However, there is one video clip where FORREST GUMP was speaking about the rain in Vietnam. The idea of climate being so different from the climate that we have here is something that's really foreign to students. They assume one season and another season can be differentiated based on temperature. The idea that they would have a rainy season and a dry season is really strange to them. Many of them have heard this clip about the rain and the different types of rain that they have encountered. What's fun is to actually have students try to read this clip as if they were Forrest Gump. Many of them can do very good impressions. But it also brings up the idea of why there might be flooding in some of these areas based on the wet and the dry season with the monsoons. Another way to help students organize their thoughts and information on the causes and effects of the pollution in Asia are some basic charts. These charts can help students organize the information that they find either on their own through research or information that you provide for them. These may seem very straightforward and very simple, but sometimes students have a hard time differentiating between causes and effects and have a hard time figuring out what is specific to one area over another area. This may be a great place to help students with research and their research skills on these different areas. These charts will help them organize their information. Another place where students can work on their research skills is the religions that are looked at in Asia. Hinduism, Buddhism, Shintoism, and Confucianism all began in Asia, South and East Asia. This is an example of some information that you can have students look for when looking up these religions. This is a good way for students to organize their thoughts and their research. After students have completed their research, this is a good time for writing. If you ask students to complete this writing prompt, it's based pretty much directly from the standard. Basically, compare and contrast the religions that began in Asia: Hinduism, Buddhism, Shintoism, Confucianism. This is a great way to differentiate between your students. You may only ask your struggling readers and writers to compare and contrast two of the religions of their choice. However, as students are more advanced in their reading and writing skills, you may ask them to try to do 3 or 4 at one time. This turns into a much more complex writing and a much more complex thought system. Students may also want to differentiate between the types of religions they are and if they really are actually a religion, Confucianism truly just being a belief system. This is a great way for students to express their knowledge and their understanding, and will allow you to see what they actually know and what misconceptions they have. Once students have some basic information about any topic, we're going to use religion here, is basically a quick game. This game can be a written quick quiz where you have students write down the answers. They could do this on dry erase boards. They could simply orally say the answers, but this is a way to check very quickly to see if students have mastered certain information. Basically, you're going to give students one word at a time, and they're going to give the answer that's associated with that term, in this case, the religion. Let's look at some examples. Nirvana. Students should immediately be able to say that this is Buddhism. If students know the information, they can give you that answer very, very quickly. Another example, this would be Shintoism. So if they know the information, once again, they should be able to quickly answer. Another example would be Confucius, therefore Confucianism. Example would be the Vedas, which would be Hinduism. And we finally have the founder of Buddhism. So these are some examples of things that you could do. You could apply this to basically any unit of study where you basically need them to quick recall information. Students will get even better at this if you do this multiple times, but speed up the time between each word. They'll amaze you at how fast they can get with that quick recall information. This is just an easy way to assess whether they are ready to move on or not. As we conclude, remember to include a variety of activities in your unit to meet different learning styles and needs. Feel free to use or modify these activities to meet your teaching style and students. Good luck to you as you plan your upcoming unit on the geography of Asia.